Welcome in, and thanks so much for joining us. It is great to have you here for today's deep dive.
Really glad to be here.
Now, normally when we sit down to do this, we are staring at, I don't know, a massive stack of research papers or investigative pieces.
Right, or those really thick historical biographies.
Exactly. But today we are doing something a little bit different. And honestly, I think it is going to be highly rewarding. Our sole source for this entire deep dive is just a single, concise Wikipedia article.
Yeah, but do not let the brevity fool you.
No, definitely not. We are looking at the page for an Irish Gaelic footballer named John Cunningham. And our mission today is to kind of read between the lines of these basic facts to explore the true life cycle of a community sports legend.
It's a great angle to take.
Because this isn't just a highlight reel of someone winning shiny trophies. It is a story about the soaring highs, the very bittersweet realities of team sports, and really the kind of lifelong, unglamorous dedication that is required to keep local clubs alive.
It is a brilliant subject for us to tackle. I mean, when you look at the architecture of local amateur sports anywhere in the world, it is held together by people exactly like the subject of our source material today.
Yeah.
The story we are about to explore is a perfect microcosm of local sports culture. It captures the complete trajectory, from the promising young talent to the seasoned veteran, and eventually to the weary but totally dedicated administrator keeping the lights on. We are really looking at the ultimate study in community, identity, and resilience.
Okay, let's unpack this. We have to start with the name. John Cunningham is widely known in his community by a great nickname, which is Rosda.
Rosda, great name.
According to the article, Rosda played his club football for Nasiala Bega, which is also known as Killybegs, and he represented the Donegal County team. And his early career, it hit a massive peak.
We really did.
In 1987, Rosda wasn't just on the team, he was the captain. He led the Donegal Under-21 team to win the All-Ireland Under-21 Football Championship under the management of P.J. McGowan. Now, I know lifting a national trophy is a big deal, but how much weight does an under-21 title really carry in the grand scheme of a sports career?
Oh, it carries a massive amount of weight, particularly regarding character. Being named captain at the under-21 level tells us a lot about his early standing in the community.
How so?
Well, that is a pivotal, totally chaotic age in sports. You are transitioning from youth leagues into the intensely competitive senior ranks. You are dealing with young men who have a lot of distractions outside of sports.
Sure, yeah.
So to be chosen to lead that group and to successfully bridge the gap between an adult manager like P.J. McGowan and a squad of 20-year-olds, that shows he possessed a rare maturity.
That makes sense.
Bringing home an All-Ireland title, which was only Donegal's second title at that level, shows that he was recognized early on for his ability to anchor a team under immense pressure.
I hear that, but let's test that theory of deep loyalty. Because just a few years later, the timeline gets a bit complicated.
It does.
The source notes that by 1990, Cunningham was actually living in London. But ahead of the Ulster Senior Football Championship, he packed his bags and returned home. He played in the final against Armagh, and Donegal won the title.
An incredible journey.
But playing devil's advocate here, do you think returning from London was driven by a deep sense of duty to his community? Or was it just the ego of an athlete wanting to play in a major regional final?
What's fascinating here is that, to answer that, we have to look at the unique structure of Gaelic games. We have to remember that Gaelic footballers are amateurs.
Right, no paychecks.
Exactly. They do not get traded, they do not sign lucrative contracts, and they don't jump to whichever franchise offers the highest salary. The sport is built on the Parish Rule.
The Parish Rule.
Yes, your athletic identity is permanently tied to your geographic identity. You play for the place you were born. So when you move to London for work or life, you don't just leave a team behind. You leave your athletic identity behind.
So you can't just transfer your allegiance to a new team in London and experience the same thing.
Exactly. The pull of his home county, the loyalty to that specific Donegal jersey was so strong that he crossed the Irish Sea to be there for the 1990 Ulster Championship. That illustrates a profound connection to his roots.
It really does.
Think about the logistics in 1990. This was long before remote work or cheap instant flights. He had to uproot his life, at least temporarily, just to play for his home county. It is a pure, unadulterated love for the sport and the people he grew up with. It's not about ego. It's about answering the call when your community needs you.
It's the kind of loyalty you just can't buy. And you would assume that after captaining an All-Ireland winning underage team and flying back from another country to help win an Ulster senior title, the path forward would be paved with gold.
You would think so.
But here's where it gets really interesting and honestly a bit jarring. We move forward to 1992. This is a massive year in the source material. 1992 was the year Donegal won their very first All-Ireland senior football championship under manager B. McAniff.
A historic moment for the county.
It's massive. Just to clarify for you listening, winning the Ulster title is regional dominance, but the All-Ireland is the ultimate undisputed national prize. This is the absolute pinnacle of the sport. But there is a huge twist for Rosda.
Yes, and it is a twist that completely redefines his sporting narrative.
Despite all his earlier successes, by the time the 1992 All-Ireland Senior Final rolled around, he had lost his place in the starting lineup.
Yeah.
The article specifically notes that he lost his place following the team's Ulster final win earlier that same season. So, on the day of the biggest, most historic game in his county's entire history, John Razda Cunningham was listed as a panelist.
Which is a tough pill to swallow.
Because panelist sounds nice and official, but that just means he was relegated to the 26-man squad. He was riding the bench rather than starting. He was wearing jersey number 21, and he did not play a single minute of that final.
0 minutes.
I have to admit, that feels brutally unfair. He flew back from London for them. How do you drop a guy who has given that much to the team?
It feels ruthless. But that is the cold pragmatism required to win at the highest level. The manager, B. McAniff, had a mandate to win Donegal's first ever national title. Sentimentality cannot dictate the starting 15.
Sure.
If the tactical matchup requires a different player, or if someone else is in better form, the manager has to make that agonizing call. But that detail is exactly where the psychology of team sports becomes complex.
How do you mean?
Put yourself in Cunningham's shoes on that day in 1992. You have given your youth to this team. You have traveled across countries for them. You helped them get through the regional qualifiers. And then, on the day history is made, the manager looks you in the eye and tells you that you are not starting.
That is a devastating conversation to have. You have to put on the tracksuit, walk out into the stadium, hear the roar of the crowd, and know you are just there to watch.
Precisely. You are watching the culmination of your life's work happen from the sidelines. Officially, the records show that Cunningham holds 1 All-Ireland senior medal and 2 Ulster titles. But the emotional weight of missing out on the pitch in that 92 final adds a deeply human layer to his legacy.
It really complicates the picture.
It takes a monumental amount of emotional discipline to accept that role without letting it poison the locker room.
That is a fascinating way to frame it. He had to stand there wearing number 21 and cheer for the guys who were on the pitch, including the very player who took his spot. He didn't cause a scene, and he didn't walk away.
It proves that sports are as much about squad resilience and supporting from the bench as they are about the starting 15. The starting players get the photographs and the headlines, but a championship team is built on the backs of the entire panel, pushing each other in training every single week.
Yeah.
His presence there, accepting his role as a substitute for the greater good of the team's first ever national senior title, speaks volumes. He didn't pack it in when his pride took a hit.
And his story doesn't end when he hangs up his boots either. In fact, you could argue the hardest part of his career was just beginning as he transitioned from the pitch to the boardroom.
A very different kind of challenge.
The Wikipedia article details how he transitioned into managing his beloved local club, Killybegs, over the course of many years. And he didn't just manage the team on the field, he stepped up to serve as the club's chairman.
Which is an entirely different beast.
Yeah.
Going from a player to a manager and then taking on the chairmanship means absorbing the entire burden of the club's survival.
And the source material gives us a clear look at the roller coaster of his managerial tenure. In 2018, things were looking up. Cunningham managed Killybegs to become the Division III champions. They won the title and secured promotion.
A great achievement.
But then we hit 2020. The team was looking forward to continuing that momentum and making a return to Division I. But the article notes that the COVID pandemic put the brakes on all of that. Now, we all hated the lockdowns, but I imagine for a local sports manager, this was a specific type of torture.
It was an administrative nightmare. Consider the momentum they had just built. As a manager, you spend years cultivating a winning culture, getting players to buy into a system, and building physical fitness.
And then it all just stops.
Having it paused indefinitely by a global pandemic means watching all that hard work evaporate. You are trying to keep amateur players motivated and connected when they can't even gather on a field or use a gym. The psychological toll of trying to keep a community united when everyone is isolated falls squarely on the shoulders of people like the club chairman.
And the struggle didn't magically disappear when the pandemic restrictions lifted. In 2021, the source describes Killybegs arriving at a match in Glenties against Cunningham. Cunningham showed up with a squad that was decimated.
Just completely depleted.
The article mentions that he reckoned his injury count had entered double figures. They were terribly light on bodies, and they ended up suffering a heavy loss as Cunningham cruised to a Division I title victory. Now, for someone used to watching professional sports, injuries just mean calling up the reserve squad. What does double-digit injuries actually mean for a small-town club?
In professional sports, an injury crisis means you dip into your well-funded academy or reserve squad. In a small community club, double-digit injuries mean you are literally knocking on doors.
Wow.
It means you are calling up retired guys who haven't played in 3 years, or begging local teenagers to put on a senior jersey just so the team doesn't have to forfeit the match.
So you are just desperately trying to find 15 healthy bodies with a pulse.
Yes. If we connect this to the bigger picture, this is the unglamorous, thankless reality of local sports administration. When you are the manager and the chairman, you aren't just drawing up brilliant tactical plays on a whiteboard.
Right.
You are dealing with injury crises, you are organizing the transport, you are washing the jerseys, you are managing the disappointment of the entire town, and you are facing the very real threat of your club being penalized if you can't field a team on a Sunday afternoon.
And sometimes that pressure boils over. The Wikipedia article includes a candid quote from 2013 that captures this perfectly. A man named Martin Slua Boyle was speaking after Killybegs had taken a real hammering in a league match against Mellon.
I love this quote.
Boyle said, "I was thinking of packing it in, thinking of ringing John Razda Cunningham, our chairman, and saying, listen, you can take this job and shove it."
That is a fantastic quote because it strips away all the romanticism we usually attach to sports. It shows you the raw, bitter frustration. And if you have ever run a local PTA or served on a community theater board or organized a neighborhood watch, you know exactly what Boyle was feeling in that moment. The burnout is real.
It really is. But the crucial detail there is who Boyle was going to call to vent that frustration.
Exactly. He was going to call Razda. Cunningham, as the chairman, is the lightning rod. He is the one who has to absorb the anger, the threat of quitting, and the despair after a heavy defeat.
He takes the heat.
He has to sit on the other end of the phone, talk those people off the ledge, and convince them to show up again for training on Tuesday night. Cunningham's willingness to handle the endless logistics and face these setbacks head-on shows a form of leadership that is arguably more vital to the community than his days on the pitch as a player.
Because without the chairman taking those angry phone calls, the club simply ceases to exist.
Exactly.
Which brings us to a really poignant snapshot near the end of the source article. It paints a picture of Cunningham's life long after the trophies and the intense managerial stints. In February 2020, just before the world shut down, there was a match between Donegal and Dublin at Croke Park.
A legendary venue.
Right. For context, Croke Park is the iconic stadium in Dublin, the absolute mecca of Gaelic sports. The article notes that John Cunningham and his wife, Fionnuala, were spotted having refreshments at the Croke Park Hotel before the game. They were there alongside other former players like Finian Ward and Enda Bonner, and lifelong fans like Stephen O'Donnell.
It is a very dignified image to conclude on. It shows that the passion never leaves, but the role evolves. He is no longer the young captain lifting a cup, and he is not in the dugout agonizing over double-digit injury lists.
He's just enjoying it.
He has transitioned into the role of an elder statesman. He is simply a lifelong supporter, sharing a pregame ritual with his wife and his peers, still showing up to support the county he loves.
So what does this all mean? Why did we spend this time dissecting the Wikipedia page of a man you might never have heard of before today? I want you to think about your own local communities. Cunningham's story isn't just a sports biography. It is a blueprint for lifelong community engagement. It is about showing up when you are the star, showing up when you are relegated to the bench, stepping up to do the thankless administrative jobs when your playing days are over, and finally just being there to cheer on the next generation.
If we look at the entire arc we have just discussed, it is remarkably profound. We started with Rosda, the victorious under-21 captain in 1987, full of youthful promise. We saw his extraordinary dedication in traveling from London in 1990 just to wear his county colors, proving that his athletic identity was permanently tied to his geographic roots.
Yeah.
Then we explored the intense emotional discipline of being a bench senior champion in 1992, being part of history, but having to watch it unfold from the sidelines. And finally, we saw his evolution into the deeply committed manager and chairman who holds the Killybegs club together through global pandemics, massive injury crises, and the very vocal frustrations of his colleagues. It is a complete life dedicated to a single community cause.
It really makes you appreciate the unsung heroes in our own backyards, the people who just keep showing up year after year, decade after decade, regardless of whether they are getting a medal or a massive headache for their troubles.
This raises an important question for you to consider as we wrap up today's analysis. When we measure sporting greatness, or greatness in any community endeavor, do we focus entirely too much on the fleeting moments, the few seconds spent lifting a trophy on the pitch during a final?
That's a great point.
And in doing so, do we fail to place enough value on the decades of quiet, completely unglamorous dedication that individuals like Rosda pour into their communities, just to ensure there is a pitch for the next generation to play on in the first place?
That is a brilliant thought to leave on. True legacy isn't just the hardware you win, it's the foundation you leave behind for others. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. We hope it gave you a new perspective on what it really takes to be a legend in your own community. Keep exploring, keep asking questions, and we will catch you on the next one.